Hello, my name's Jo. I am an antenatal teacher for Suffolk Babies, and I'm here today to talk about the process of labour and birth. We're going to start off by thinking about what makes birth happen. There are three key things: hormones, environment, and emotion. That's what makes birth really difficult to medicalise, because everyone's experience will vary according to the hormones they're producing, how they're feeling on their day, and the environment that they're in. You may find that you have a different experience from labour to labour, and your experience will differ very much from that of your friends. We're first of all going to consider the different hormones that you release during labour. It's a complex cocktail of hormones, but there are two key ones: oxytocin and adrenaline. Oxytocin is a very positive hormone. We're going to think about its characteristics in a minute. And adrenaline is quite a negative hormone. So we're going to think the whole time about how to boost our release of oxytocin and reduce our flow of adrenaline. The next thing to think about is your environment. The environment that you give birth in is really, really important, because your environment is going to boost or reduce the flow of these two key hormones. You need to think about creating that perfect environment, something we'd describe as a nest or a birthing bubble. You might want to think about how to create an environment similar to your own home or a really lovely romantic hotel room. You want to think about things like the lighting, what that room smells like, music that you want playing in the background to make it feel more homely or more familiar, the different people you want with you in that environment, what you're going to wear on the day. All of these things are going to affect how you feel emotionally during your labour. And emotion is really, really important as well, because if you're very, very fearful, you're going to increase the flow of this negative hormone, adrenaline. But if you feel very happy and relaxed and secure in your environment, you're going to produce more of the positive hormone, oxytocin. The role of the birth partner. Who you choose to have as your birth partner is a really big decision. Most people assume that the father of their baby will be their birth partner. But sometimes that's not possible, or maybe that's not the person you want to have with you. That is absolutely okay. Some dads don't want to be present at the birth, and that's okay too. You need to have these discussions before the onset of labour, because you don't want to get to the point where you're in labour and find that in fact your birth partner feels really, really uncomfortable and doesn't know how to support you, or that you feel uncomfortable labouring in front of them. Remember, this is a very intimate experience, so if you don't feel completely relaxed with the birth partner that you've chosen, that could affect your emotional state during your labour and increase the amount of that negative hormone adrenaline that you're producing. If you don't want to have the father of your baby with you as your birth partner, a lot of people look to a friend or a relative, and some people choose to hire a professional birth partner who's known as a doula. It's absolutely fine to have more than one birth partner, but you probably want to limit the number that you choose, because you don't want to have lots and lots of people with you on the day. Remember, that negative hormone adrenaline is more likely to come about or be released if you're surrounded by a lot of people. You can feel overexposed. So I'd say probably try and limit your birth partners to one or two people. You really need to think about what you want your birth partner to do. Some birth partners use massage during labour, and you might want to practice that before the onset of your labour. Other birth partners help you with your breathing. We're going to look at a couple of different breathing techniques in later videos. And it's worth trying to get your birth partner to watch these videos with you so that you can discuss those breathing techniques, practice them together, and then they're able to support you using them on the day. It's also your birth partner's job to maintain this beautiful birthing bubble, this nest where you're going to have your baby. So at every point in labour, they ought to be thinking about, is this room too hot or too cold? Is this room too brightly lit? Should I be dimming the lights? Has my partner got everything that they need to labour? Are they well hydrated? I think a good birth partner checks whether or not you've taken fluids in every hour of your labour. And if fluids are going in, they've got to come out as well. So they also need to be there reminding you to go to the loo, because sometimes you can forget about that during labour. Birth partners are also there to make sure that you've got any props or anything that you've brought from home. Some people like to take their own pillows, which smell of their fabric conditioner, that kind of thing, because that makes your birthing environment feel more homely. Birth partners are also there to sometimes talk on your behalf, and it's really important that your birth partner understands your wishes for your birth. So I think it's really worth writing the birth plan or any birth plans that you refer to with your birth partner before the onset of labour, so they're really, really aware of your wishes. But we also need to think about why we fear birth. And I think it's because we're quite disconnected from birth now. Birth happens behind closed doors, normally in a hospital, and a lot of the time women have never seen a normal birth before they have their own first babies. 50 years ago, more people had their babies at home, families were much larger, so even if you hadn't seen a birth yourself, you might have been aware of somebody labouring in your home and a baby arriving. Also, dads didn't really support women during their labours. You were supported by other female relatives, so you're far more likely to have been involved in a labour and to have first-hand experience of labour. Now there's this massive gap in our knowledge, and we fill that gap with things that we see on television and stories that we hear from our friends. And a lot of the time, those stories are highly dramatised. They're not reflective of average birth experiences. People who've had positive experiences don't often feel very comfortable talking about it. So we have this kind of underlying fear of birth. We also, when you look at birth logically, we're perfectly equipped and we can use a whole range of techniques to help us through the process. So we need to try and make sure that we feel really, really confident in our ability to birth before we approach our labours.
Birth is a natural process, and our bodies know exactly how to do it. Just like many other natural processes in our bodies, like sneezing or coughing, for example, we don't actually need to intervene to make those processes happen. Our bodies just do them, and it should be the same with birth. All of these processes, as I said, are controlled by hormones. And a big player in the hormone cycle is oxytocin. Oxytocin is absolutely essential in initiating your labour and in keeping it going once it's started. Oxytocin is the hormone of love. It's the hormone that we produce when we feel safe, relaxed, cocooned and nurtured. And so we really want to promote this in our bodies during labour. But oxytocin doesn't work alone. It works in relation with a whole raft of other hormones which are present during our labours. The first of these are prostaglandins. Prostaglandins are produced in response to oxytocin levels rising in our blood. They're also found in semen, so that old myth about using sex to start your labour isn't so much of a myth after all, especially when you consider that oxytocin levels also rise during orgasm. So actually it can be quite an effective way to help your labour to get going. So we have our oxytocin and we have our prostaglandins, which help to ripen and soften the cervix. So they're really essential for allowing our baby to emerge into the world. As well as these two hormones, we have to consider melatonin. Melatonin is also key to a successful labour. Many people will know it as a sleepy hormone, as the hormone we produce when we're getting ready for sleep and when light levels fall in the evening. But this isn't the only function of melatonin. It also enables oxytocin to be more effective, and the presence of melatonin during labour boosts the oxytocin's power in producing our contractions. So as you can see, all of these hormones work as a team and they all rely on each other to create this positive hormone cycle. And as our contractions become more powerful and closer together, our body starts to produce another important hormone, a beta endorphin. And beta endorphins are extremely powerful analgesic hormones. Their analgesic power is thought to be around 200 times that of pethidine. So if we can allow these positive hormones to flow in our bodies, our levels of endorphins will rise, and therefore we will feel the analgesic effects, and our labour will feel less uncomfortable. So how do we allow our bodies to be in a relaxed state, so relaxed that these hormones can start to flow? Well, we have to think about our inner calm and our outer calm, about the way we feel inside and the way our environment is around us. There are many things you can do to increase your sense of inner calm. Deep breathing and hypnobirthing exercises can be very effective. Also, fueling your muscles throughout labour, making you feel in control and not weak, not dizzy. Using your birth partner to reassure you, to touch you, to massage you, to hold you and to support you can really help you feel more relaxed and calmer during labour. But as well as all these things that we can do to make ourselves feel calm on the inside, we can also control our environment. We can think about the light levels in the room. So as I said, melatonin is produced when light levels fall. So one of the main enemies to melatonin production is bright lights or UV. So think about reducing your exposure to screens, to phones, to tablets, to keeping the big bright hospital lights low, and maybe bringing in your own lights, tea lights, fairy lights, something that's twinkly and keeps that light level lower so that melatonin can be produced. Think about the smells that surround you, think about aromatherapy oils, smells that remind you of home. After all, an animal going into labour will find a cosy, dark, familiar space to give birth in, and that's what we want to recreate in our hospital environment. Bring in items that remind you of home, that make the surroundings feel familiar. Maybe wear your partner's t-shirt, bring your own duvet, your own pillow. Anything from friends and family that makes you feel relaxed, words of inspiration, photos of loved ones, maybe even your baby's first outfit. Just anything that makes you feel cosy, nurtured and nested, helping you to create that labour bubble in which the positive labour hormones can thrive. We must remember though that there are another set of hormones that can come into effect during labour, and these are the negative hormones. Adrenaline being the main player. And adrenaline really is the enemy of oxytocin during labour. Adrenaline inhibits the production of oxytocin and can therefore cause our contractions to stall and our labour to stall. Adrenaline is generally produced in response to a threat or a fear. And when we produce adrenaline, our body goes into the fight or flight mechanism, pulling blood away from our central organs, including our uterus, and into our limbs ready to run away or to fight. When any muscle is starved of oxygen, it goes into a cramp. When we go into an adrenalized state, we can also use up to 1,000 kilocalories per hour. And if we're not replacing those calories, we basically go into starvation mode, and that's when our body starts to produce ketones. When we start to feel weak, we start to feel dizzy, and we start to feel out of control. And when we get those feelings, that's when the fear starts to kick in again. And the whole negative hormone cycle starts from the beginning. So we want to keep away from producing those negative hormones and stay in our labour bubble where the positive hormones can be produced freely. Easier said than done, you might think, but just keep reminding yourself, create that inner calm, use your birth partners to support you, and keep your environment just how you wanted it. And most importantly, remember to trust your body. Your body knows what it's doing, even if you feel like you don't.